So I got off the phone with well, a lifelong friend. We've been friends since we were toddlers, 4 or 5 years old. Um, yeah, I talked to him. He's down there in the middle of this hurricane. Uh, but before after we talked about the hurricane and everything like that, he always gives me the update because his parents still live in the old neighborhood, um, along with a bunch of other people that I grew up with. And it's one of those neighborhoods where the kids move in, the kids move and buy a house that somebody else has either died or either they've died or they've moved, and so this neighborhood has a lot of parents, kids, and grandparents. So it's really an interesting neighborhood, and it was a good neighborhood. Still is a good neighborhood. So yeah, so he always gives me the update. Um, who's doing what, how they're doing, um, things like that. And so he gave me some news, some not so good news. There was one of the neighborhood dads that when we were growing up, we all looked up to. One of many. Our dad, his dad. I mean, everybody. We all sort of looked up to each other's dads, and they all looked after us around the neighborhood. And there was this one. I'm not going to mention the name. I'm going to keep it blank just in case. I don't want to step on any toes or anything, but there was this one in the neighborhood, and yeah, so he gave me some news. He told me that he passed away, and that was pretty shocking. But I thought he was a little bit older than he was. He was actually, I think, in his 60s, maybe 65 or something like that. And I thought he would have been in his 70s, but it might have been because he had gray hair early. Um, which okay, that sucks that he died. And then he mentioned to me that in the morning time, around 6:20, 6:30 in the morning, he went out his backyard and took a 44 and shot himself in the head. And that put a whole different perspective on the thing. That shocked me, um, because you just don't think of, there are a lot of people that do take their own lives, but you just don't think of people that have gone through life and have gone through, the rigors of getting a job and supporting a family. You don't think of those people being in that place, that many of us don't understand how you could get in that place. And we sort of talked about that. I was like, I don't understand. I'm like, I can't understand how awful it would be to be in the place where you would be able to have the guts to actually do that. Um, and everything was still under investigation. He gave me bits and pieces of, there was a note left, and basically the note said that I guess he had health problems that many people didn't know how bad it might have been. I'm not sure. He said they would come out later, but he said it's something about his health in the note, and I guess he had diabetes, which is, my dad has diabetes, and he's had it, quite some time, and he's managed it. But that's a pretty expensive and taxing disease. So yeah, so it got me to thinking. I've never been in that place. I've never been in that place. I've never been um, in that desperation to where I felt that I would have to actually, or that I'd want to just end it all. But what I sort of want to talk about is the fact that we don't have a legal way out if we wanted to, because of religious right, uh, and the right in general. We're meant to suffer, and I thought about that. I said, well, he did what he felt he had to do. He's living his life, and he couldn't go anywhere else, so he did it himself. Who knows? I was talking to my wife about this. I said, there should be a way to be able to do this. And what I mean is, I don't mean it should be carte blanche. Because I think that some people get into places that maybe they can get out of. Depression, whether it's through drugs that it make you feel stabilized, or whether it's just through therapy. Going to a doctor and talking about it. I don't necessarily think they should have an easy way out. I don't think just because you feel that you want to take your life doesn't mean that there's not a sunnier day on the other side, and they should have an easy way out. But I was thinking about what is it, Lou Gehrig's disease? I think is that AL. I don't want to say ALS, but maybe that's what it is. I know it by its. I could look it up, I guess, but you know what I'm talking about. There was a baseball player named Lou Gehrig, and it's the disease. If people don't know what I'm talking about, that basically your nerves start dying, and you lose control of motor functions. You can't move your hands. You can't speak correctly. Your tongue gets heavy, and eventually it kills you. Your heart gives out because the same reason it's a muscle. So it's like a muscular disease, I guess, but it has something to do with your nervous system too. And as a matter of fact, I think Dr. Kevorkian might have gone to jail helping someone who had this disease, assisted him in ending it, and he wanted to end his life, and I can see that, and I don't know why in this country and in many countries this is something that is illegal. Why should that be illegal? There is no reason that should be illegal. If I knew that the last thing that my wife and kids and parents were going to see is me curled up in a ball, not being able to control bodily functions, I would much rather go out when it got just a little bit. I'm not saying I would automatically go and say, hey, take me out, I don't want to see any of it, but certainly when it was my time in choosing, I would much rather go out and have them remember me as I am and not as I will become. And I think the same could be said for some of the other diseases out there. Alzheimer's is one that I could see reasonably that getting to a certain point that you might want to check out early. Let's face it, by the time towards the end, the people don't, they don't even know who you are. Even if you're their parents or their kids, they don't even know who, they can't even recognize you. So it's not really them anymore. Yeah, so it got me thinking, here we are. We have the dogs. Animals have more. We have more sympathy in this country for animals than we do for human beings, because you'd never let an animal suffer. If your dog, or let's just say a horse, we saw this last year in the this year in the Kentucky Derby, that filly broke her leg, and she was euthanized on the spot. Something's wrong when that's accepted, but we want to let human beings suffer through it. And for what? It's not building character. The people are going to go out suffering. It just doesn't make any sense. There's really laws that need to be reformed in this country. Unfortunately, I believe that the religious nuts won't let it happen. It just really doesn't make sense. It reminds me of the Terry Schiavo case when they kept this body alive, but nobody was home. So they wasted who knows how many thousands of dollars, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars keeping this body alive when everybody was telling them there were no brain waves left. And you had people protesting, and I know it's a certain group, and I can't remember which group it was. It was a religious group, and they basically go around the United States acting as if they're the majority, or acting as if this is something that is common, all these protests at these hospitals and places, every time, and it's all politically motivated. Um, no, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I guess that's what I just want to say. Um, I'm running out of time here, unfortunately, but that's my story. I just thought it was really interesting, and it got me to thinking with this passing of this neighborhood dad. Uh, maybe it was just his way of controlling his last, what he felt was going to be his last moments of life, of decent life. Maybe he found out he had Alzheimer's, or maybe he found out that he had 6 months to live and he had cancer, and he just took it on his terms. So I really don't have a problem with people that do that.